What is up guys, it's your boy Solam here. So with the official hardcore series coming up, I want to take a look at what is the best class for hardcore classic WoW. Now recently I've been doing a video series where I'm covering every single class, covering the strength and the weakness of every single class, and also giving those classes a 5-star rating based on a couple of metrics like solo gameplay, group gameplay, and survivability. So let's take a look at some of those 5-star ratings and how the classes do compare to each other. That way, that should give you an indicator on which classes are the best ones to play. Because let's face it, what class is the best one to play depends on your personal preferences when it comes to which class you prefer playing and the play styles you prefer, and if you want to play for survivability, solo gameplay or group gameplay, if you want to be raiding and doing solo content in the open world, solo self-found, and so on. There's a bunch of metrics that do help determine what the best class is for you, so hopefully this video shows you a little bit about the pros and cons of every single class and shows you which class might be the best one for you. So here we go. For solo gameplay, Hunters are a pretty obvious 5 out of 5 stars in my opinion. Having a personal tank with insane damage output and incredible survival, through your Hunter pet and specking Beast Mastery, you can handle just about anything in the open world while leveling, both normal mobs and elites. Pretty much anything is soloable as a Hunter. For group gameplay, this is where it gets a little bit more tricky, referring back to previous in this video where I said a bad Hunter would be the reason why your dungeon group wipes, while a good Hunter would be the reason why your dungeon group survives. This is where your personal skill ceiling comes into play. A bad Hunter in a dungeon group would be a 1 out of 5 stars, maybe a 2, while a very good Hunter would be a 5 out of 5 stars. For that reason, I will meet in the middle ground and give it a 3 out of 5, while also verbally stating that it has the potential to go up and down from this rating based on your personal skill. Hunters do bring a lot to the table in groups. First of all, having that pet offers a chance of having an off tank ready at any times. Plus you can use the Hunter pet to pull mobs if or when necessary, or off-tank in big pulls. On top of that, you also offer crowd control and slowing abilities. You can use Trank Shot, Viper Sting to drain mana, but you also have the usual Hunter memes, where a dungeon group wipes due to a Hunter pull. Lastly, for survival, I give Hunters 5 out of 5 stars again. Having a personal tank, you can always keep your main target away from you at any times while dealing damage from max range, and if you happen to butt pull another mob on you, then you can wing clip into scatter shot and then run away for them to concussive shot it and keep it slowed. Alternatively, you can use a frost trap on it or even feign death. You also have movement speed increase from aspect of the cheetah, so even running away is fast as a Hunter. The only thing you really don't have is self-healing. So overall, Hunter is a very good class to play for hardcore, especially while leveling. Solo gameplay, I give Warlocks 4 out of 5 stars. You have a lot of abilities at your service. You can fare self-healing through Drain Life, permanent healing potions through Health Stones, a personal tank through the Voidwalker, fare to get out of dangerous scenarios, you lack some crowd control, you don't have any movement speed increase ability, and your enemy slowing ability is a little bit scuffed. On top of this, you don't really have an oh shit button like a Hunter's Feign Death, Rogue Vanish or Paladin Bubble. The best you really have is Death Coil and maybe the Voidwalker Sacrifice. Group gameplay, what did I just say? Group gameplay, I'm actually going to put it at the same place, 4 out of 5 stars. I was even going to say 3, but having the ability to summon puts them up to 4. Survivability, also 4 out of 5, referring back to having a demon tank, health stones, fear and Voidwalker Sacrifice. You are usually pretty safe while leveling, but lacking the ability to vanish, feign death or bubble, plus lacking movement speed. And based on this, the overall rating is also going to be 4 out of 5 stars. I will add that Warlock is a very good class to choose for a first character in hardcore, because as long as you play it safe, it is a very safe class. Having access to a demon tank is a huge advantage over many other classes, making it the perfect entry class for entering anyone wondering which class to play, there's also a pretty big demand for Warlocks at max level, as they are used a lot in raiding setups, and people always want that summon ability for group and raid setups, so by choosing a Warlock, you are picking a class that is both good for leveling, and you know there is a demand for it at the end game. For solo gameplay, priests get a 4 out of 5 stars. A good priest can put up this to 5 out of 5, and a bad priest would put this down to 2 out of 5, but for most priests, I think 4 out of 5 is roughly where you're going to be. Having access to healing abilities and decent damage output already by itself puts you in a pretty good situation, especially as long as you understand your class limits and don't try to be a mage pulling 20 mobs in one pull when you are in fact a priest. Priest leveling is actually incredibly chill, and it should never be dangerous or difficult unless you make a mistake that makes it scary. For group gameplay, priest jumps up to 5 out of 5 stars by being the best healer in the game, arguably, being able to prevent damage before it's being dealt, which can literally save lives from abilities that would otherwise result in certain death, and as a healer you will be in high demand all the time, and finding groups will be incredibly easy. For survival, back down to 4 out of 5, possibly 3, but I'm gonna give it 4. Having healing abilities is nice, and having Psychic Scream can definitely be helpful. Shadow Form reduces damage taken, but once again, you do lack movement speed increase, or a way to slow down mobs over time without channeling. You lack stuns, Paladin Bubble, or even a Hunter Pet or a Warlock Demon. You could even argue that for survival, Priest could be a 3 out of 5, but personally, I think considering all of the abilities that you do actually have access to, a 4 out of 5 star rating does sound fair. For solo gameplay, Paladins are 5 out of 5 stars. Once again, I will put emphasis on this rating being purely based on hardcore servers, and they are slow and steady, so you need to be prepared for a slow but steady leveling experience. For group gameplay, Paladins are also 5 out of 5 stars. Being a hybrid class, you can effectively tank, heal or DPS alike, and throughout your leveling process you can fulfill any of these roles quite effectively. Additionally, you can help your group out by buffing them with blessings, allowing them to either generate less threat through your salvation blessing, or increasing their damage output through other blessings. Paladins are incredible to have in any group situation. Lastly, for survival, another 5 out of 5 stars. Having access to stuns, Blessing of Freedom, self-healing, Paladin Bubble, you name it, the Paladin has it. The only thing you really don't have, which would have made you even better, is a pet companion and a speed increase for your character, but you really don't even need those. A skilled Paladin can survive just about anything. For solo gameplay, this class gets a 5 out of 5. Having all the abilities you have, it is, like I said, a recipe for survival and success. You can slow down mobs one by one with Frost Shock, AoE slows from Earthbind, Ghost Wolf to speed yourself up, a personal target dummy, self-healing, you can use shield, you pretty much have it all. The one thing I will say is that while I do personally give the class a 5 out of 5, personal skill does matter here, and in order to unlock that 5 out of 5 star rating, you need to utilize all the abilities that you have in your toolkit. For group gameplay, another 5 out of 5 stars. Totems can buff everyone else in your party, meaning you bring a lot of group utility and synergy, plus you can fulfill the role of either a healer or a DPS, meaning you are an incredibly flexible support class. Plus, if you're a DPS, you can pump some pretty good numbers on those DPS meters while also supporting the rest of your group from your totems. For survival, you would never guess it, but another 5 out of 5. Referring back to the same abilities as usual, self-healing, Frost Shock, Earthbind, Ghost Wolf, it's a pretty insane class for survival if you ask me. The Rogue is a very good class to pick if you want to play a melee character, but also have access to a lot of survivability at the same time, and especially if you enjoy having lots of crowd control abilities at your disposal. The rogue has a pretty low skill floor, being very easy to play on a surface level, but also has a pretty high skill ceiling, especially when you're soloing content. A rogue can solo just about every mob as long as they are slowable, gougeable, and there's a line of sight opportunity. Basically, apply crippling poison, gouge the mob, then run behind a line of sight, kite with damage either by using thrown weapons, range attacks, or even deadly poison, and bleed effect through rapture. With all this being said, let's get into some ratings. For solo gameplay, I give rogues 5 out of 5 stars. You have insane damage output, crowd control from gouge, blind, zap and kidney shot. You can kick enemy casts, and to top it all off, you have evasion, melee, and you can evasion melee mobs attacks, and sprint away or even vanish if you realize you're about to die. For group gameplay, I also give rogues 5 out of 5 stars. They are wanted in groups from start to finish. While leveling, you will not really have a tough time finding a group as a rogue, as there's no reason not to bring a rogue. You have good damage output, both single target and AoE, and you bring crowd control options to dungeons plus the ability to open locked chests and also open locked doors. On top of this, rogues are also wanted in raiding setups at level 60 to a pretty high degree, helping justify that 5 out of 5 rating. For survivability, it's the same thing, 5 out of 5 stars. Sprint, blind, evasion, vanish. Rogues pretty much have it all except for bubble and self-healing, which they don't really need anyway because they have just about everything else. Vanish is probably going to be more useful than bubble in many cases. Let's say you are fighting a boss inside a cave and running out will take you 20 or 30 seconds. The Paladin will pull all the mobs on the way out and still die after his bubble duration, while the rogue can just stealth out after vanishing. All of this being said, even though I am technically rating the rogue overall 5 out of 5 stars, that does not mean I'm saying it is the easiest class to level for hardcore. I just think it might be the best based on those 3 criteria. For leveling, I still consider hunters to be both better and easier, but when you take everything into consideration, rogue is a very good choice. For solo gameplay, mages get a 5 out of 5 star rating. Once again referring back to slowing abilities like Frostbolt to kite mobs around, Frost Nova to freeze them in place, Polymorph for crowd control, Fire Blast for mob tagging, Ice Block for immunity, Cone of Cold for slowing down multiple mobs in one instant cast, Ice Barriers and Mana Barriers for survival, Blink to get out of dangerous scenarios. Mages have an insane toolkit for just about everything. It is, however, worth mentioning that you do lack self-healing, and you are a glass cannon, but it's still 5 out of 5 stars for me. Now for a group setup, another obvious 5 out of 5 stars. Mages pump damage and can top damage both single target and in AoE pools, especially in AoE pools. Mages are insane, and I can't think of a single scenario where you do not want a mage in your group. If you pull too many mobs, a mage can help you blizzard kite mobs to slow them down, while running out to reset as well. It just provides so much. On top of that, you also provide the ability to trade other people food and water. Now for survival, another 5 out of 5 stars. Ice Block for immunity, enough slowing abilities to slow down all of Azeroth, Frost Nova, Blink, you name it. The fact is, mages are pretty insane for hardcore, both while leveling and at max level. You are very good for leveling, everyone wants you in their group, and you are also very good at max level as well. An overall, very good choice. For solo gameplay, it's an obvious 5 out of 5 stars. Having leveled a Druid to 60 myself in solo self-found hardcore, it is incredibly safe all the way. You deal good damage, not reliant on weapon upgrades through playing feral, no downtime, root dangerous mobs, dash to sprint away. It's actually insane how strong Druids can be. For group gameplay, I kind of want to put it at 3 out of 5, but I'm going to go for 4 out of 5. Having the ability to DPS, tank and heal gives it an extra star in my opinion, being able to fill any role at any time. In addition, feral DPS can both tank and DPS with the same spec, even at max level, so you don't need to respec between tanking and DPSing. That being said, they don't have the highest demand at level 60, you usually only need 1 to 2 of them in a 40-man raid, plus the lack of crowd control stops them from getting a 5 out of 5. For survival, it's back to 5 out of 5 again, referring back to self-healing abilities, roots, dash, movement speed, travel form. Nature's Grasp is a pretty high survival class. Overall, Druid is a very good class for hardcore, and after leveling on myself, it's a lot more fun than I initially thought it would be, and it's definitely worth giving a try. For solo gameplay, warriors get a 2 out of 5 star rating. I probably should put them at 1 out of 5 because they are going to be the lowest rated class in this category, but I simply can't bring myself to give any class a 1 out of 5, especially considering warriors do actually have access to Hamstring and Intimidating Shout. Now for group gameplay, warriors suddenly jump up to a 5 out of 5. They are arguably the best tank possible with incredibly threat generation and survival utility through going defensive stance with a shield mid-combat, and they are also incredible damage dealers if allowed to pump massive damage. For survivability, once again it's going to be a 2 out of 5. Lack of self-healing and being a melee class with no speed increase can really be tough. The only upsides are once again Hamstring and Intimidating Shout. As a quick summary, warriors might be the most difficult class to play when you're playing solo, but as long as you're able to group up, it suddenly goes from 0 to hero and it becomes absolutely incredible. It's also a very safe choice if you're thinking about level 60 gameplay, and as long as you can suffer through the leveling journey, it will all be worth it at the end. You scale incredibly well with the gear, but you also need to take advantage of professions like cooking for food buffs and first aid for self-healing, and make sure to use hamstring kiting to your advantage.